So, as some of you may not know, Joe Biden did preemptive pardons on his family, his brother, um, Liz Cheney, Dr. Fauci, Mark Milley, and some others. Um, Gotta ask a simple question: is it that Trump is really going to retaliate? Which I really don't think so. Just because we all know that Trump said in the 2016 campaign he was going to lock Hillary up. He never did. Um, we also see that Trump didn't really do too much retaliatory actions in that first term. Maybe things could be different. I mean, it does seem like some of his charges may or may not have been legit, and then some of them were just completely outlandish. So, with that being said, there's a Democratic representative that completely disagree with Joe Biden. Um, I'm not a fan. I'm not gonna say I'm not a huge fan. I'm just not a fan, period, of Dr. Fauci. Um, I'm really not a fan of Liz Cheney. So, I mean, there is the argument that the Jan 6 oversight committee was literally a sham job. Documents are missing. Lies were said. Um, I'm kind of leaning towards that. Of course, I wasn't there, so I don't know for sure, but it does start to seem that there is a little bit of evidence towards that, as y'all might have seen some of the text messages that I kind of brought out in the Liz Cheney is a hero video. But I really kind of want to keep the whole Dr. Fauci thing to a minimum. I just kind of want to say that Wuhan was getting funded by the CDC. The CDC did not allow a lot of this gain of functions research that was, that the CDC wanted to take place. And so, yeah, China, Wuhan, you know, allowed it. They took the funding, they took the grants, and here we are. So, yeah. Well, let's get into this video.
In the final hours of his presidency, Joe Biden issued preemptive pardons to several critics of President Trump and members of his own family. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett asked Florida Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz if he agrees with that move.
I'm not a fan of these pardons, right? I wish he didn't feel that he needed to do that. But yeah, this will play right into the communication message that the Republicans have been doing for 2 years. They were never trying to impeach Joe Biden. They never had the votes for that. It was all a charade. I proved that in committee. But this goes right into their messaging that, oh, the Biden crime family, he had to pardon them. He clearly felt the need to pardon them because the Republicans were going to continue to be relentless in the House for the next 2 years. And he was worried.
I mean, there was definitely some shady dealings between Hunter Biden and Burisma. I'm sorry. Um, just because the stance, like, honestly, on a personal level, I don't think drug addicts should go to prison. But because of the stance that Joe Biden took in 1994, I mean, lock your own son the fuck up, bruh. I mean, at the very least, let's just hypothetically say he didn't do the shit that he did with Burisma and Ukraine and China, and he is just a master painter, and he wasn't just selling his paintings. Let's just say that, Hunter Biden, for the most part, was an up and up guy. He didn't use his dad's position to get out of trouble or to get into dirty businesses. Y'all should have been locking this motherfucker up just because somebody left cocaine in the White House. That was a whole scandal for like a week or two. We do know that he was out here doing some crazy immoral shit. I don't think his immoral actions deserved to put him in jail, but definitely, smoking crack, doing cocaine should definitely have you in jail just because that's the same stance, that's the same laws that your daddy wrote. So, with that being said, fuck pardon the hunter. But I transgress.
Worried about some of the appointments, some of the statements of the appointment people being appointed have made. And so, the president cares most about his family. Former president cares most about his family. We know that he cares most about his family. And he must have felt that his family was going to be targeted. And it's a shame that this has happened, but I'm not a fan of the pardons because now the precedent is set from now into the future.
And Republicans may well say, for a president who lectures Republicans all the time about due process and the rule of law, he's not even allowing that to play out to protect his family members, which will encourage them to assume the worst.
So I'll take it a step forward, right? I mean, 4 years from now, I mean, it's a long time from now, obviously, but if the President Trump feels that he wants to pardon his family on the way out the door, right, now Democrats can't say anything about that. And so that's what I mean about the precedent that is set here. Wish it didn't have to happen, but we have weaponized the House. We have weaponized these committees. There's enough blame to go around on both sides on that. But what's gone on in oversight is not real. It's all been a farce. It's all been a show. Okay, again, they were never trying to impeach the president, or if they were, it was the worst attempt you've ever seen. But they did remove their own speaker and almost remove a second speaker. So, listen, who knows with these guys? But at the end of the day, it's unfortunate that these pardons happen today.
What about the pardons for Mark Milley, the January 6th committee and staff, and Dr. Fauci?
Yeah, again, right, it falls in the same vein.
So, from what I'm gathering on a personal level, if somebody has other information to point me in the right direction, I feel like the only person who wasn't corrupt out of the whole pardoning scheme was Mark Milley. He literally told, he stood up to the Constitution. He literally said, it is nearly impossible for us to have American troops on U.S. soil taking military actions. No, we can't shoot protesters. No, we can't shoot them in the leg or anything like that. So, of course, Mark Milley kind of came out after, Trump's first presidency and kind of, drug Trump through the mud a little bit. Obviously not as bad as like, Michael Cohen or John Bolton or something like that. Um, so, I'm not saying he needed a pardon unless there's just something that I haven't seen, which I mean, if anybody knows anything, put me in the right direction. I'll gladly do some research on it. And then if, there's enough information, we can do a video on it. But Liz Cheney and Dr. Fauci, they did kind of have it seems like they had some fucked up dealings and they were doing some flawed shit. So
I don't know what the president was thinking, but clearly he was concerned about statements that were made about some of the people who are going to wind up in some of these positions if confirmed. Again, I don't like these pardons. I don't like these preemptive pardons. These are pardons of people who have not committed any crimes. They've not been adjudicated of any crimes. It's all preemptive. And so, yes, this is another norm that falls here in Washington, and there will be repercussions from this. But again, we didn't get here just by accident. We got here based on statements and threats that have been made against these people. The president has the power to pardon who he wants. He felt he needed to use that. I find it all unfortunate.
You're one of the Democrats associated with the Department of Government Efficiency, or at least the idea around it. We keep hearing that Vivek Ramaswamy is soon to leave that process. Is that process stronger or weaker without Ramaswamy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've read the reports that he's leaving and maybe running for the governor of Ohio. I mean, at the end of the day, this is going to have to be a bipartisan process. They feel that they want to mandate, and electorally, I think President.
I do. I do. I don't know if I'm gonna do a video, but I really suggest that the people of Ohio, if he does try to run for some kind of office out of Ohio, y'all do some very deep, extensive research into Vivek Ramaswamy. He honestly he has some great talking points. But when you actually kind of look at some of the history that he's done, some of the corruptions that he's kind of had, I would be very, very cautious. I personally wouldn't vote for him, um, especially with the failed drug trials, the pump and dump scheme with the pharmaceuticals, you know, the trans drugs. I mean, to me, that's pretty. Having dealings with some Wall Street guys that I'm not a really big fan of. Yeah, so
President Trump probably did that. But in the House, there's no mandate. They have a 3-vote majority. That's not a mandate. And they fight amongst themselves. So they're going to have to work with Democrats. I'm not going to fight for the status quo. Is there an American right now who's like, government's perfect, don't touch it? No, of course we can try to save some money. Of course we can make things more efficient. People are waiting to get folks on Social Security on the phone for 2.5 hours, or trying to figure out how to get their VA benefits 3 hours on the phone. There's got to be a way we can streamline this, make things more efficient, and make things less expensive. That's what I'm here to do as part of the Doge Caucus. I will protect Social Security. I will protect Medicare. Americans don't want cuts to their benefits. They want cuts to the bureaucracy. And so for me, I'm going to protect the benefits, but I'm not interested in protecting the bureaucracy.
In his inaugural address, President Trump talked down our ability as a federal government to respond to natural disasters. He mentioned North Carolina and California. You were an emergency management official in Florida. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah.
Do you think Trump is wrong to talk down the federal response?
Well, let me say this. I have the utmost respect for everyone who works at FEMA. It's a thankless job they have. It's a department that deals with disaster after disaster. These guys are working 18-hour days on end. They're burned out from all these disasters post-COVID, from COVID, and then just hurricanes and fires and hurricanes and fires. These folks are America's first responders. It's a nonpartisan agency that helps people in their time of need. But I think the president is correct in this respect. I think FEMA is no longer working in Homeland. I think Homeland has become too big. It's too bureaucratic.
Homeland Security, the department.
Homeland Security is too big. It's too bureaucratic. 23 agencies are in there. I think FEMA needs to get out of Homeland so that it can get
Go
faster.
where?
It should be its own agency reporting to the White House, as it was when it was created. It was a White House agency. It responded directly to the president. I have a bill actually in Congress to restore that. And so I do think from the response standpoint, FEMA probably isn't as fast as they used to be from a response standpoint, but I put the blame on the bureaucracy that is Homeland Security.
Do you want to lead that agency under a Trump administration?
No, look, I'm running for re-election. I'm staying in Congress. But I will say this, is that that is a nonpartisan job. And so the president should look at Democrats and Republicans. He should look at who he thinks is the most qualified. And if there were a Democratic president, I'd say the same thing. There are still some nonpartisan jobs here. We haven't politicized everything yet. But there's still some nonpartisan jobs. We should hire the most qualified person. In fact, that's what Republicans say all the time, right? The president gave a speech today that it should be merit-based. Well, then, the person who gets the FEMA job, it should be merit-based, regardless of their political party.
Florida Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz, I'm going to let you go back inside so you can get warm.
Thanks for having me outside, being from
and
Florida.
Stop showing me up by being out here without a coat and gloves on.
This is a staff failure. I'll handle that.
Very good. We'll see you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Democratic Rep Moskowitz, he made some very valid points, definitely with FEMA, and obviously with needing to balance the budget to make sure things are more efficient. Maybe even reallocating some of those funds. Obviously, he's not really talking about nothing major. Overhauling the military budget, making sure that these contracts are truly properly reasonable in pay and compensation. And of course, with FEMA, what happened in Eastern Tennessee and Western North Carolina. Sorry, I had to sit there. I'm from North Carolina, and I had to think about it. But yeah, Eastern Tennessee, Western North Carolina. Not necessarily think about the states. I had to think about the um, the directions that I'm talking about. But it's still fucked up. I mean, I drove through there. Half the mountain is still kind of half the roads on the mountains have kind of caved in on 40. You're not even allowed to be able to drive a truck down there. You actually got to go up through um, up to Northern Virginia, then shoot back down into North Carolina instead of just taking 40 from um, Tennessee into North Carolina. Eastern Tennessee, I mean, it's looking pretty rough. It looks like legitimately like a tornado kind of went through it. Same thing with Western North Carolina. So I haven't. I probably won't be going to LA. I'm not really like a big fan of LA anymore. The whole, fairy tale was sold to me. I found out, LA is not, the promised land. So, but yeah, just kind of looking at the devastation with the Palisade fires and the other LA fires. Um, this stuff has to be kind of figured out with FEMA. I understand $700 to kind of buy supplies, get some stuff, but $700, that probably gets you, if you're lucky, 3 or 4 nights in a hotel room and a couple groceries, and that's probably not going to last you like a whole week. So definitely got to kind of pump those numbers up. We see that a couple years ago with the whole Hawaii fires, they also try to give $700. Like, this is just kind of ridiculous. And of course, now people are trying to buy up Asheville. People are trying to buy up um, parts of LA. So, yeah, but yeah, that's about the pardons. Joe Biden is definitely wrong for it. If y'all know anything about Mark Milley, let me know. But be safe, be good, peace.